tight. On the way home I'll be warm. The fire is slowly dying, and my dear, we're still goodbying. But as long as you love me so, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Oh, holy night, the stars are brightly shining. It is the night of our dear Savior's birth. Long lay the world, it's in an air of binding, till he appeared and the soul felt its worth. A thrill of hope, the weary soul rejoices that yonder breaks a new and glorious dawn. Fall on your knees, oh, hear the angel voices, oh, night divine, oh, night when Christ was born, oh, night, oh, holy night, oh, night divine. Truly he taught us to love one another. His law is love, and his gospel is peace. Chains shall he break, for the slave is a brother, and in his name all oppression shall cease. Sweet hymns of joy in grateful chorus raise we, let all within us praise his holy name. Christ is the Lord, oh, praise his name forever. His power and glory evermore proclaim. His power and glory evermore proclaim. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh. O'er the fields we go, laughing all the way. Ha, 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 bells and bobtail ring, making spirits bright. What fun it is to ride and sing a sleighing song tonight. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride on a one-horse open sleigh. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride on a one-horse open sleigh. You don't have the music. You want the music? I saw Mommy kissing Santa Claus underneath the mistletoe last night. She didn't see me creep down the stairs to have a peek. She thought that I was tucked up in my bedroom fast asleep. Then I saw Mommy take off Santa Claus underneath his beard so snowy white. What a laugh it would have been if Daddy had only seen Mommy take off Santa Claus last night. I saw Mommy kissing Santa Claus underneath the mistletoe last night. She didn't see me creep downstairs to have a peep. She thought that I was tucked up in my bedroom fast asleep. And I saw Mommy kissing Santa Claus underneath his beard so snowy white. What a love it would have been if Daddy had only seen Mommy kissing Santa Claus last night. Christmas music has been performed under difficult circumstances over the centuries. A myth about the next song tells us that it was written in 1818 because the organ in the church wasn't working because of damp. It was written in 24 hours, inspired by the sound of church bells for two soloists, choir, and a guitar. Stille Nacht, heilige Nacht, alle schläft, einsam wacht, nur das traute heilige Paar, holde Knabe im lockigen Haar, schlaf in himmlischer Ruhe, schlaf in himmlischer Ruhe. Stille Natt, heilige Natt, all der Fried stjärnenblid skiner på barnet i stallets strå, och de vakrande fromma tå. Kristus till jorden är kommen, oss är din frälsare född. Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round the world and mother and child, holy infant so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace. Father jul, dejliga jul, ängladelen i skjul, hier i flyver med paradis grönt, over to you, President John.
Wow, that was beautiful. Thank you. You can't really find a song more epitome of Christmas than that and Silent Night. Absolutely gorgeous. Thank you for doing that. Who are we going to talk with today? I think the first one we need to unmute and say hello to is Benoit. So good to see you back, Benoit. How are you feeling? Please unmute. Hey there. Okay. Maybe there's trouble unmuting. I also see Randy Gunn is there, and it's a bunch of birthdays tomorrow. Happy birthday, Randy. You unmute? Oh, okay. So we're having some muting problems. Yeah, we got a bunch of birthdays tomorrow. Randy, Peter Simi, and Joseph Tubbs are all having birthday parties tomorrow. So I hope everyone has a great time. And Fabio was celebrating last night for his birthday, I bet. Vince, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm fine. Had a good week, good work, very good work week, and
Yeah,
love the snow.
yeah. Oh, it's pretty, isn't it? It just makes it Christmas.
Yeah, it does make it
Yeah.
Christmassy. Yeah,
Well, who knows whether we'll have it by the 24th or 25th or not, but we'll see.
we'll see.
You have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Um, Deb Snyder, how are you today?
Hey, John. I'm good. Hi, everybody.
Any plans for the weekend?
Well, I'm at the cottage. I'm heading back to the city today. So,
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. I'll go up next week. That is beautiful up there.
yeah, I don't know what the roads are like though today. I heard it's pretty slick down in Toronto. Is it? Or
It
Huh.
is. It is. It's
it
not
is?
pleasant to drive. Give yourself enough time.
Maybe I should wait till tomorrow. Yeah.
Don't rush.
John,
Yeah.
Yeah.
are you still up at your cottage?
No, I'm in the city.
Okay.
I came back Monday, and I'll be going back up next week.
And are you in your new home?
No. That's not for a while. No,
Oh, okay.
no. um, Mitra, how are you doing, Mitra?
Hi, President John. How are you?
I'm good. I keep
Good.
real busy these days. The market's nuts, eh?
Market is not exactly. Some parts are not that much. However, we are doing our best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you have a very, very good weekend,
Thank
and
you
I
so
hope you
much.
enjoy today's program.
Absolutely. I will always. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Don't forget to mute everybody. It's 12:15. Thank you, Brigitte and Glenn. As always, beautiful, and the Christmas was just a really, really nice touch. Appreciate that so much, as I'm sure everybody does. Good afternoon, Rotarians and guests. This is the Rotary Club of Toronto. I'm John Fortney, the club's president, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to our virtual meeting today. After the invocation and the recognition of traditional lands, please stay tuned for the playing of our national anthem and the Loyal Toast. At this time, I would like to recognize that we are on the traditional lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. We commit ourselves again to Rotary's four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair? Is it fair to all concerned? Sorry. Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? We give thanks for opportunities to improve our world through our professions and through Rotary service. As we enjoy today's fellowship, may we be ever mindful of the needs of others. And now, our national anthem. If you'd like to, please stand for the national anthem, followed by the Loyal Toast.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true faith and love in they rise, the true, strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on God for thee. God gave a land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on God for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on God for thee.
Ladies and gentlemen, Her Majesty the Queen. Again, thank you, Glenn and Brigitte. Rotarians and guests, it is now my pleasure to introduce our head table. I am pleased to have the following people with me today. The ever happy Donna Jones Simmons, Rotarian since 2008. Classification, retired. She's chair of our member engagement committee and our club Christmas party committee. Michael Morgan, Rotarian since 1971. 49 years. Former classification, investment, real estate. The club past president and our Lefty personal speaker for today. Richard White, Rotarian since 1996. Classification, employee benefits, consultant. A club and foundation past president and transition team member. Jeff Dobson, Rotarian since 2001. Classification, investment management. A club past president and sponsor and mentor of our new member, who is the Consul General of Japan in Toronto, Takuya Sasayama, who you will hear more about later. Neil Phillips, Rotarian since 1998, classification, logistics management co-packing, a past club president and district governor. Host to our guest speaker today, who is Andrew Phillips. You will hear more formally introduced shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, our head table. For our virtual meetings, we do not have an official monitor to introduce visiting Rotarians or guests, so I'll proceed. For the only visiting Rotarian I can see, we have our Rotaract Treasurer, Laura Vale here. Welcome, Laura. To our visiting Rotarians, thank you for choosing our club for your makeup. We hope that you enjoy this meeting. To all of our guests, welcome to our virtual meeting today. Please feel free to contact the office and find out how you may be able to make a difference by joining us. Rotarians, please welcome our visitors in the tradition of our great club. Now for our announcements. We will have our transition talk, the members only segment, at the end of today's meeting. Past President Richard White will be presenting our transition committee's supporting groups information. The meeting for guests will stop at that time, and if any of our guests are on Google Meet or YouTube, you'll be asked to leave Google Meet, and the YouTube streaming will be stopped. Up next, I have Donna Jones Simmons. She would like a minute of your time. Donna, over to you.
Good day, Rotarians and friends. Are you feeling the holiday season? Everyone's trying to get into the holiday spirit, especially in my neighborhood. The trees and houses are well lit. So I've had to adapt as well to the herd mentality. I'm putting up my Christmas tree tomorrow. Yes, I did get the memo. Talking of the memo, I sincerely hope that you received the invitation I sent to you so that you can send a tribute for the video montage. It's pretty easy. Using your own phone or your laptop, simply upload your pictures or video using the link provided. If you're not happy with your creative artwork, you can re-record, then click submit when you think you are ready. We are building the video montage for the Christmas luncheon, which is being held on Friday, December 18th from noon until 1:30 p.m. I promise you that with your full and enthusiastic engagement, the video will be real and beautiful. We will have singers, a choir, some pictures, Brigitte, we hope to hear from you too. We'll have pictures from last year's Christmas activities as well. That's just to name a few. As a reminder, though, the deadline to send your tribute is December 11th, just 1 week away. It will allow the editors, me, sufficient time to pull the video together in a logical fashion. Let's make this a Christmas luncheon, one to remember. Oh, don't forget that we are having a Christmas tree competition, and 3 winners will receive a lovely gift. Send your picture of your fabulous tree. May the best trees win. One more thing, remember to eat, drink, and be merry during the virtual luncheon. Thanks for your time. Back to you, President John.
Thank you, Donna. Always on top of everything. It sounds like a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody there. And now for one of my most favorite actions as role as the president is the introduction of another new member. I would like to ask Past President Jeff Dobson to please introduce Sasayama-san to our new member. Over to you, Jeff.
Thanks very much, President John. It's my honor and privilege to introduce you to Sasayama Takuya, Consul General of Japan in Toronto. Mr. Sasayama Takuya joined the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Japan in 1988. His past work experiences include political and economic affairs, as well as legal fields, with international postings in Mexico, Malaysia, Korea, and the United States of America. He most recently served as Minister in the Political Affairs section at the Embassy of Japan in Ottawa, where he was also a Rotary member. Mr. Sasayama's hobbies include various sports such as golfing and skiing, as well as spending time outdoors observing local animals and wildlife. Being a diplomat, he's passionate about promoting Ontario-Japan relations and looks forward to being part of the community at the Rotary Club of Toronto. He is joined in Toronto by his wife Mariko and their son. Sasayama-san, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to you as the newest member of the Rotary Club of Toronto, and I understand that you would like to say a few words, so I turn the meeting over to you.
Well, thank you, Jeff, and hello to everyone. My name is Sasayama Takuya, and as introduced, I was working in Ottawa for 2 years in the past, where I was a corporate Rotarian member, whose president Kateri was very kind. And today I was quite honored to be a new member to Toronto, which is quite different atmosphere from Ottawa Rotarians, and I'm a little bit nervous today, but I'm looking forward to have some great times with you in the future. Thank you so much. Back to you, President John.
Thank you so much, Sasayama-san. I am so thrilled that you have joined us. Your predecessor was a very active and fun member, and we are looking forward to you involved in the club and meeting your family. And I hope that you have a great time. As all of us who've been here a long time can tell you, it really is a great club. Thank you and welcome. Now it is time for our Let's Be Personal speaker, and it is my pleasure to pass things over to past President Michael Morgan. Over to you, Michael.
Thank you, President John. Fellow Rotarians and guests, I was born and educated in England, educated in fact at a boarding school in the south of England, founded 468 years ago and still going strong. I spent the first 10 years of my working life in the London property business before emigrating to Canada in 1958. I was lucky enough to be hired in 1960 by a fellow Brit who needed help in expanding his fledgling real estate investment company called MEPC Canadian Properties. We acquired and created sound commercial real estate investments across Canada for our shareholders, and then in 1978, having merged with Morgard Investments Limited, we found ourselves working for some of the larger Canadian pension funds. By the time I retired in 1996, we had grown to be quite a large company with assets under management valued at about $2 billion. The real estate classification in our club originated with Murray and Ray Bosley, who proposed my boss, Peter Anker, for membership in 1966, and he in turn proposed me in 1971. In those days, there could only be one representative from each business and profession in any Rotary Club, and potentially good candidates were denied membership on those grounds alone. I decided at the outset that my primary interest would revolve around disadvantaged young people. So the Crippled Children's Committee, yes, that's what it was called in those days, was the first committee I joined. Identifying worthy projects for support by our wonderful foundation has always been a satisfying challenge for our members. We used to call them signature projects, and back in the early 80s, I was able to identify the West End Creche as one such project. Since 1908, the West End Creche had been treating emotionally disturbed preschool children and their headquarters building on Euclid Avenue in the west end of the city had become hopelessly inadequate. So we set about replacing it. The board, under Bill Dale's leadership, decreed that the foundation's grant was to be conditional upon a fundraising campaign being launched by the club to augment the foundation's donation. It's a neat idea. Um, Peter Hermant was appointed campaign chair, and our co-sponsorship of the National Ballet of Canada's production of The Merry Widow at the O'Keefe Centre became the focus of our campaign. The opening night was really quite something. We were also able to sell for a profit a building which we'd acquired previously, but which subsequently was deemed unsuitable. So there are indeed many ways to raise money for a worthy project. We met Andre Casabon in 1998 at an urban peace conference which we'd organized here in Toronto. She was looking for help to make her movie Letters to a Street Child. This we did with some help from our foundation once again, and some of us actually performed in the movie. It was a great success, and subsequently she told us that her dream was to see the creation here in southern Ontario of a long-term residential treatment facility similar to the one in Utah, which had put her back on her feet. Thus was born the Pine River Institute, with 4 of the original 6-member board being Rotarians, including Ron Crane in the chair. St. James Cathedral generously lent us the use of their Sunday school room, and that became our first official office. Once again, the foundation, together on this occasion with the Tippett Foundation, stepped up to the plate with a generous donation, and the opening of the facility took place with a ribbon cutting ceremony in 2006. A separate girls' dormitory is presently in the course of being completed, and once again, our foundation has generously lent its support. It has to be added that this would all have not been possible but for the inspiring leadership of Karen Minden, who has spoken to us at our club here on several occasions. Hands-on projects have always been some of the most satisfying projects we've undertaken, and the one I'm most proud of was the school mentoring project we undertook in 1998, jointly with the City of Toronto and Jesse Ketchum Junior Public School at the top of Bay Street. Several of us volunteered to be mentors, and that meant spending an hour each week with our mentee on the school property. Marlon was the 7-year-old youngster assigned to me, and we met each week either in the library or on the basketball court. He loved basketball, and he went on to play semi-pro in Europe. We've kept in touch over the years. He's now 30 years old, gainfully employed, and about to start his own family. The project has an interesting backstory. It had 3 roots, as it were. First was the president of the Buffalo Rotary Club, whom I met in Chicago at the large club's conference for incoming club presidents. They, the Buffalo Club, were operating a successful mentoring project, which he told me all about, and that's where I got the idea. Secondly was the mayor of Toronto, Barbara Hall, whom I had met the day we launched the health bus, and who told me about the city's own mentoring project. And finally, Steve Resor, who was the City of Toronto's deputy police chief at the time, a member of our club, and the chair that year of the Youth and Children's Service Committee, who were to be responsible for the rollout of the project. How much our club has changed over the last 50 years. And I'm heartened to hear the plans now underway to adapt to present-day circumstances and to move confidently into the future, a bit like that school I attended nearly 500 years ago. as a youngster. At the core, we are and will continue to be a community of caring people with a proud history of service to the City of Toronto and the wide world beyond. Finally, in response to your question last week, President John, a word about the health bus. It was the brainchild of Jerry Nuds and Bob Rutherford. The word has it that they were on holiday together in Barbados with their wives, sitting on the beach one evening, watching the sun go down, with a cocktail in hand. And one said to the other, I have this idea. And so it came to pass, with Jerry Nuds leading the push to make it happen. As club president at the time, it fell to me to do the honors when the bus was officially launched at the Wellesley Hospital in the spring of 1996. With the mayor and other dignitaries present, it was quite an affair. Back to you, President John.
Wow, thank you so much, Michael. Next year, 50 years with our club. That's going to be incredible. We all remember special moments in our Rotary path, and I know you were the one who interviewed me to join Rotary way back in 1999. And we have to keep these stories going. We all know the general, and I think a lot of people are losing the story. So hearing the genesis of things is so, so important. And I thank you for that. And I think we all need to keep going over those stories so we know our rich history and how we've contributed so greatly to Toronto and to the world. Again, thank you so much, Michael. That was amazing. If any members wish to get on this list and be a LFD personal speaker, please contact Don Dell. Now it's time for our guest speaker, and I would like to pass things over to past President Neil Phillips. How are you, Neil?
Thank you. I'm doing well. Thank you, President John. Andrew Phillips has been editor of the Star's editorial page since January of 2011. Previously, he was editor of the Victoria Times Colonist and the Gazette in Montreal. He has also been a writer and editor of the Gazette, CBC Television News, and Maclean's, if anybody remembers that magazine, as well as business editor of the Star. His reporting has had him covering events across Europe, in Canada, and a stint in Washington, D.C. He holds a degree in history and economics from McGill and taught journalism at Concordia University. On a personal note, Andrew has been an inspiration for my love of sarcastic humor. Andrew, I know everyone is excited to hear what you have to say about the great orange tweeter. Over to you, and welcome to our club.
Well, thanks so much, Neil, and hello, everybody, and it's really a pleasure to be with you. Neil mentioned, so I'm going to talk about I was asked to talk about the presidential election. Now, my time in Washington is past. I was actually correspondent for Maclean's magazine there between 1996 and 2001. And so I got a little bit of an exposure to American politics and to the way things work there. And part of my remit was to travel around the United States, not just stay in Washington. So I do have a Donald Trump story, which I'd like to tell you. Because in 1997, I was sent up to New York City, not a hardship assignment, to do a cover story for Maclean's magazine about the rebirth of New York. If you recall, at the time, in the 80s and the 70s in New York was pretty grim. If you ever went there were a lot of drugs and people wouldn't go out on the streets. And around the early 1990s, things started to turn around, and Times Square was cleaned up and so forth. So I went up to New York, and one of the people who I met there was Donald Trump. And the reason for that was because he seemed to be a bit of a metaphor for New York, because Donald Trump had been a big celebrity in real estate and all that, but he had fallen on his face in the early 1990s and gone bankrupt in various ways, but was on his way back up at that time, and it seemed like a nice metaphor. So I went to a building around Columbus Circle, if you know where that is in New York, where he was about to open a new tower, a 52-story tower. And he took a couple of us up to the top and showed a building, or an apartment rather, that was almost ready, that he said he was going to have for himself. And at the time, I think it had some incredible price tag of something like $3 million. I couldn't imagine. And I'm sure that right now it would be worth $30 million, but at any rate. And what struck me about him was all the things you could imagine, But at one point, we were going through, and there was a workman at the top of a ladder because the ceilings were about 20 feet high. And there were several of us. And rather than just going around and being a decent host, he started to yell at this guy on the top of the ladder. And he started to say, "You're going to wreck my walls. Watch out for my walls. You're going to damage my walls," and so forth. And at the end of this thing, who does that? Who berates their workers in front of people? And I thought, this guy is an incredible jerk. But it worked. I mean, the whole thing worked. And he was about to publish, or he had just published. One of the reasons he spoke to us was because he was publicizing a new book, his third book at that time, called Donald Trump: The Art of the Comeback. Okay, and so we had the cover story of Maclean's had the line, "A great city is reborn, and even Donald Trump is making a comeback." They had a picture of him. So I'm going to keep that in mind about Donald Trump, 1997, Art of the Comeback. All right. You can imagine where that goes. But I was asked to speak. I thought I would speak about the damage done, about whether it can be fixed, and about whether we've heard the last of Trump. Okay, and that's a lot to cover in 10 or 15 minutes. But I'd like to leave some time for questions because I'm sure I'm sure you'll have some. I certainly hope so. So the damage done, rather than go through a litany of all that, a lot of it's obvious, quite frankly. And I think we have to differentiate between, what any Republican president would do and what Donald Trump has done. Now, some of the things that people would consider damage are things that any Republican president would do, such as lower taxes on the rich, clamp down on certain kinds of immigration, do all those things that a lot of people, certainly most of us at the Toronto Star, think aren't great because they exacerbate inequality and lead to, a harsher society and so forth. But that's pretty much standard Republican stuff. The difference with Trump is twofold. There's the substance of it and there's the personality. And the substance of it, is very important. I think that, his personality obscures things, but, he has repositioned the Republican Party pretty fundamentally. It used to be a party of free trade and of, America, leading America around the world and so forth. It's now become a kind of protectionist party. He's got the slogan "America First." He's withdrawn the United States from all sorts of treaties and agreements and turned America to some extent in on itself. And this is stuff I think that, a lot of people look at this and they don't like it from the outside, but it's resonated with a lot of Americans because it also speaks to, as we know, the damage that's been done in the last generation, a couple of generations, the loss of jobs, the decline of the Rust Belt states, and so forth. And this is something I think speaks to something deep in many parts of America that people feel neglected. They feel as if they're the elites, if you like, haven't paid attention to them, that they've treated them as so-called flyover country in the middle. They're not glamorous. They don't live in New York or LA, all that stuff. And they also feel like they've been ripped off around the world. There's also a deep exhaustion, I think, among Americans that in the post 9/11 era, they've been around there, they've sent troops, they've spent tons of money and lost thousands of lives trying to sort of police the world. And one thing you can give Trump, I think, credit for is that, when you think about it, he's not got America into other conflicts. And he's pretty much the only American president in the last long period of time who hasn't done that. Some people feel it's an abdication of leadership and so forth, but for a lot of people, not going around, not seeing, body bags coming home is a big relief. And I think that's something that somebody like Biden is going to have to keep in mind if his new leadership is tempted to reassert American leadership around the world in that fashion. But the tone, of course, is what really gets everybody's attention. It's Trump's personality. It's his that quality that I saw in 1997, where he would just insult somebody, some regular worker in front of everybody. It's a horrible thing to do, and we see that all the time. And one of the differences you realize when you go to the United States is spend some time there, is the reverence for the office of the presidency. The presidency, the president is the only person that all Americans vote for, right? The president and the vice president, but everybody else is voted by some Americans. They could be statewide or whatever, but the president, and also being the head of state and not just the head of government, gives that office a particular important function. It's one of the advantages, perhaps, of Canada, being a constitutional monarchy. We don't necessarily have to revere our prime minister, and we certainly don't in that way. And Americans want to respect the president. They very much want to. And of course, it's impossible to, even Trump supporters, I mean, most of them would say, he is a jerk, but he's our jerk, right? People would say things like, we don't want him to be our pastor. We don't want him to be our best friend. We don't want to be our, if they're women voters, we're not choosing a husband, if you like, but we want a leader. We want that guy on the wall, that person who will do whatever it takes to defend us. That was their idea. So even they wouldn't speak up for him in terms of personality. And I mean, we've seen it. I don't need to go through it all. The horrible behavior, the insulting people, the incitement sometimes to violence, wanting to punch people and so forth. It's kind of incredible. And it's taken the divisions in America among partisans and widened them to, an incredible point. I wouldn't say that's true for all Americans, but for people who are engaged in politics, for active party supporters, I mean, they've never been more polarized. Every opinion poll shows that. Republicans basically, think that Democrats are, tearing down America and so forth, and Democrats think Republicans are not only just greedy but evil at this point. And that's something, they're living in alternate worlds. You've probably read many things about that. I think, being in the media myself, I pay special attention to the media environment. And it's been quite a long time, certainly since the internet became the main way people get news, or one of the main ways, that people have been able to live in alternate realities should they choose, right? They can go to certain websites, they can customize their social media feeds and whatnot. But this has just become even more so. And very recently, we see, for example, that a new kind of very sort of ultra right-wing media has grown up. Fox News is now considered kind of dodgy by some of the Trump loyalists. Not firm enough for Trump. It wobbled, if you like, on whether he really won the election or not. And so there's a whole other group of media that are springing up. I mean, there's places like, I don't know if you've even heard of these things, but One America News Network is one of them, or Newsmax. These are very niche, not broadcast, but usually internet-based or satellite-based Fox News type equivalents that are way to the right of Fox News and absolutely down the line loyal to Trump. And we also see that social media is starting to fragment because the mainstream, Facebook, Twitter, Google, are under tremendous pressure to not let the far right in particular, and the far left, but mainly the far right, sort of run rampant, if you like, and spread whatever. There's a lot of pressure for, and you see this with Facebook and Twitter, to being much more active in putting up alerts and sort of health warnings about about certain kinds of fake news. So, for example, and there's a concern amongst Trump loyalists that this is all aimed at the right. So, for example, there's a new site, I hadn't heard of it until recently, called Parler, which is like an alternate Twitter. It's Parler. Some people say parlay, but they say Parler. And what it is if some of these far right people are migrating to this site because they fear that Twitter is going to crack down once Trump is out of office, maybe even kick him off Twitter, for example. There's a lot of pressure from the left and from some people in the center to do things like that. So you can see that these alternate views, these alternate realities are widening and becoming even more. It's also affected the Democratic Party. You can see they've gone the party has gone to the left, and I think one thing to look for is a clash between the Democratic Party base, so-called, the left, and the progressives, and the Biden administration, because so far, Biden is, if you look at his early appointments that he's announced that he's going to nominate for administration, none of them are sort of identified progressives, if you like, and there's going to definitely be some kind of fight between different elements of the Democratic Party. So the damage, and I'll just briefly say that, this America First policy, because it affects Canada, is something that is worth thinking about. I mentioned that Trump, they've withdrawn from all kinds of agreements, such as the Iranian nuclear agreement, such as the Paris Climate Accord. They withdrew from the World Health Organization on the ground, and were completely absent in May when a bunch of countries got together to try and coordinate on fighting COVID. It's quite amazing that the United States would be absent from an effort, a global effort to fight COVID internationally. And the Biden administration seems to be they've said they will reassert American leadership, and we can, people can have different views on what that means or what it should mean. But what it does mean is that, or what it has meant is that when America withdraws from leadership, dictatorships, abhor a vacuum, right? And like nature and dictatorships abhor a vacuum, and so you see China becoming much more active. They've signed a big international economic agreement in Asia that excludes the United States. They're very active in Africa. They're active all through Asia, quite remarkably so. China, Russia, Turkey, countries like this have entered that space. So while I don't think it wouldn't be desirable to turn back the clock and have a kind of, the world doesn't need America to lead it, if you like it did maybe in the 50s or 60s. It's a very different world. America should at least be collaborating with other countries and its allies constructively. I mean, I think that's kind of obvious and basic. And it shouldn't be beating on countries like Canada, right? Which it has done by unilaterally demanding that NAFTA be renegotiated, by putting on tariffs on aluminum and steel and so forth. So, we can expect a change in tone there, but I think personally, I would hope that the Biden administration doesn't feel that it has to go too far on that and, if you like, reassert a kind of American leadership that isn't appropriate anymore. So finally, just on the future, I'll just mention, I think we need to deal with the future of Trump here. Because the question, I think I threw out the question when asked to say what I was going to talk about, have we heard the last of Trump? And I mean, I think the obvious answer is no, right? I mean, I think that this is pretty obvious. And because people were wondering, in the week or so, 2 weeks after the election, why is he resisting the obvious conclusion that he's lost, right? Why would he refuse to concede? Why would he put up all these legal fights when there was no evidence of ballot tampering and that kind of thing? It doesn't seem to make any sense. And of course, it doesn't make any sense if you think that his goal was to actually contest the election. But it makes perfect sense if you think about, the longer term, right? Because, he has established in the minds of quite a few people that this was that he didn't lose, right? That the election was, quote, stolen. And this may not be, it may not be certainly not a majority view even among Republicans, because you can see them kind of turning on that. But for at least, an active base, that will become kind of an article of faith. And this alternate media reality that I mentioned will continue to repeat that. So he's positioning himself clearly not to go away, not to disappear from the scene. The way the American system works, there really won't be another national leader of the Republican Party until they nominate a candidate in 2024. De facto, he's already kind of the leader, if you like, of the Republican Party. And the Republican Party pretty much put itself at his service during the past 4 years and became kind of the party of Trump. it would be hard for, he did not, if he had lost by a very convincing margin, if, for example, the Democrats had won control of the Senate and increased in the House of Representatives, that would have had, among other good effects, the effect of maybe having the Republican Party break with Trump. But right now, they're not going to do that. They see that he's strong. He has a Twitter account of 88 million. He has the sixth largest Twitter following in the world, apparently, according to Twitter. Number one is Barack Obama. I checked, and number two is Justin Bieber. Just to put things in perspective. So, and number three is, I forget who, but it's another entertainer. But gives you an idea. 88 million Twitter followers. He speaks to 88 million people directly. With another forwarding of messages. I mean, you can cover the whole 88 times, a couple of forwarding, you probably cover the whole population. And that's why I think he's afraid, that Twitter will kick him out, because it would actually affect his power, and why they're building these alternate venues. So he owns social media, he owns the Republican Party. He's the de facto leader of the party. And I was quite surprised, I didn't know this until Monday when I read it in the Washington Post, that since the election, which is now like four and a half weeks away, and as of Monday, he has raised $170 million for a new political action committee called Save America. This is since the election. This is not during the election. This is in the 4 weeks since. And if it was 170 by Monday, it's probably 180 by now. So he's building up and this political action committee is structured in such a way that it can bring in more contributions. There's different categories, and the money can go to all kinds of different areas. There's a certain category of political action committee that allows you to do this. So he's building a war chest, a post-election war chest already, to continue his influence. So finally, so Axios, which is a political website in the United States, and a good one, reported a few days ago that he was considering a 2024 run, right? That he would try to get back the nomination in 2024. Who knows, right? But, and if he did that, he would be, and if he did that, and he did it successfully, he would be the second president to ever have done this. The first president to do this was Grover Cleveland. Right, I'm sure you all are American history buffs. You know all about Grover Cleveland. Not probably, but Grover Cleveland was president in the late 1880s for 4 years, and he was a Democrat, in fact, and he lost the election of, I think, 1888, and did not. And when he lost the election in 1888, his wife Frances is reported to have said to the housekeeper at the White House, look, just make sure you keep the furniture in good shape, because we're going to be back here 4 years from today. That's what Frances Cleveland said. And in fact, he got the nomination back in, I think, 1892, if my math is correct there. And 4 years to the day, January, whatever, well, I think it was March in those days, they went back. 4 years to the day, Grover Cleveland and Frances marched back into the White House and he served another 4 years as president. So this is something that has happened in the past, and people are already starting to say, well, how can we prevent this from happening? Couldn't there be some sort of constitutional measure or something or whatever to prevent it? But it has happened before. Constitutionally, it could happen again. He could have a health crisis. Who knows? He's already, he's in his mid-70s. Who knows what his health will be like in 4 years? Who knows what the world will be like in 4 years? But it's possible. And I leave you with that because when I said that when I went to Washington or to New York City in 1997, he had just published The Art of the Comeback. And he's done comebacks before. He has thought about it. He'd written a book about it long before he ever got into politics. And, if anybody had said in 1997, this guy's being president of the United States, you'd think this is impossible. It still, frankly, seems a bit impossible, even though it's happened. And so I think that I don't know what's going to happen, but I think that in his mind, if I, just taking all that together, I would not be amazed if he's already, the wheels are turning, and there's thoughts of a revival. In fact, it's, I'm just putting that out there as a kind of something to think about. And and with that, I thank you for your attention, and I look forward to your questions. And back to you, President John.
Well, thank you so much, Andrew. Very informative. Well, we've got 3 questions. I'll go with mine first. I don't know if this is inappropriate, but I'm going to ask. There's been a lot of, on social media, you're getting all the, there's quite a big element in the United States and in Canada that are quite strongly going against the mainstream media and how they're plotting to do something against us. I still have not been able to understand what the point of mainstream media ruining civilization is, but can you just add a little light to that for me?
What's the question, sir, finally?
When people are going on about mainstream media is trying to take over, what exactly are they trying to take over or brainwash? For what purpose?
Well, I would love it if mainstream media had the power to take over anything. I mean, we can practically, if you look at what's happening to mainstream media in the last 10 or 15 years, it's been, like the retreat from Moscow or something. I mean, it's been one defeat after another. So, being part of the mainstream media, I don't actually know what that means either. And, trying to take over. I mean, arguably there was mainstream media back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s that did kind of rule the roost, right? Broadcast media, big newspapers and whatnot. But man, we're stumbling along for trying to survive here. And if I think I know what you mean. I mean, I think that people kind of feel like there's this global conspiracies and elite conspiracies and so forth. But I don't know. I've never seen it, and I don't know quite what else to say about that.
I know, it just doesn't make any sense to me either. We have a question. Do you think Trump is behind QAnon?
Oh, good God! I doubt it. I mean, well, is he behind it? I bet there are probably, degrees removed, or do people know what this is? You're talking QAnon, right? This conspiracy theory, right? Okay, the one about the global elites and the sort of ruling the world and whatnot. I think there's enough people out there. There's always been, from time immemorial, kind of a feeling that among some people that there's a kind of global elite conspiracy. It's changed, there have been since, the Templars were suspected, and then the Rothschilds and whatnot. And, I think that there's a continuum, and I think that, that I don't think he has to. I don't think he has to deliberately feed things like that. I think they have their own roots. But I think that he's the kind of guy who would surf on top of that feeling and knows how to take advantage of it, knows how to play it, if you like, in pretty clever ways. But it's such a far out thing that I doubt that I don't think he's that nuts.
Okay. Another question we have from, where to go here? From Steve Smith. If for whatever reason Trump was no longer involved in the Republican Party, health crisis or whatever, would the party change? Or is the Republican Party on a path that won't likely change by now?
Well, I think it would change to some extent. I mean, I think the tone, I think that a lot of people, he's unique on the tone. But I don't think it would change in terms of, I think this America First agenda, if you like, is as I said, is one that resonated with a lot of people. I think the party has fundamentally changed in that way. And I think that because America's changed, because, the damage done in states like Pennsylvania and Ohio and Michigan and whatnot for a long, long time has been there to see. I mean, I don't know if any of you have ever driven through some of these places. I mean, you go through, rural Pennsylvania, man, you drive through some of these towns and whatnot, and it is frightening. It's a wasteland, and that's real damage done to real people. And I think that, um, you know, for rightly or wrongly, they blame things like trade deals and whatnot. And I think that the Republican Party has found a new line there, if you like, a new seam of discontent to play on. I mean, you see it in even. I mean, Aaron O'Toole's in Canada is borrowing some of this stuff, right? I mean, he sort of talked about trying to forge links with trying to appeal to working people who, in some parts of the country, have gone through some similar things. We have a better social safety net. We don't allow people to just fall to the ground, right? But nonetheless, you know, you can go to parts of Ontario and, you know, their best days seem to be behind them, if you like. Go to Peterborough.
We'll do one last question, and it's from your brother. It's not the pizza question. Do you think it's possible he may resign just before inauguration to allow for a Pence pardon?
You know, that's a kind of an interesting idea. You know, I wonder. I mean, that would be like, because people have wondered, you know, can you pardon yourself, right? And then they debate that and they say, well, no, because you can't be the sort of judge of your own case, if you like. And I think that would. I'll tell you what. The person who would object to that would be Pence. I think if he had any brains, because if he were allow himself to be manipulated in that way, and to be president for like 48 hours, and his only real job was to pardon Trump. I mean, he'd be cutting his own throat with a whole bunch of other people, because some people do see Pence as being, the civil Trump, if you like, right? The kind of a decent guy on a kind of basic personal level, but he has the same ideas. So I think I guess technically he could do it, but I think, Pence would have to say, yeah, I don't think so, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. And I think Jane had a question about criminal charges, but I think even if he were pardoned, that doesn't cover state charges, so he could still face.
Exactly. That's true. Yeah, exactly. He can only pardon himself he can only be pardoned for federal crimes, yeah. and there's a lot of people are conspiring to or trying to figure out how to get him on all kinds of levels.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we could go on, I think, with this one for a long time, especially looking at it from a Canadian perspective. I'm sure the most left of the Democratic Party probably think we are left of them. So we always have an interesting perspective, I think.
Yes,
thank you so much, Andrew. Always very informative. Is there any more questions that we argue whether Trump is? Oh, someone wanted to know if you think that Trump is actually smart or not.
That's it. I've heard somebody, one of the talk shows, somebody was asking, or I was reading something about that. Yeah, I think he's pretty smart. I think he's quick, he's canny. He's not a dummy. I mean, I think he, he's not an intellectual, but I mean, he had success in business as well as failures. Even establishing launching what is it? What am I looking? The shows, TV stuff and whatnot, reality TV stuff. But that stuff doesn't just happen. So I think he's smart. But I think, frankly, if it wasn't for his revolting personality and so forth, I mean, I think he could have won re-election. And if he had handled COVID decently, and you don't get elected president and have a shot at re-election without having something going for you.
Okay, well, thank you again. Thank you so much, Stephen. Andrew. It was very, very inspirational, and I think, like I said earlier, we go on for hours with this topic, and I don't think we'll ever have a direct answer until things happen.
Thank you very much.
In recognition of the day you spoke so well to our club, a donation has been made in your honor to the Canadian Landmine Foundation to help remove landmines so a child can go safely to school. The Canadian Landmine Foundation aims to realize the Ottawa Treaty, banning any personnel landmines by clearing mine-infested lands and offering hope and practical support to mine victims in the world's most mine-affected communities. This donation has been made in partnership with the Rotary Club of Toronto's International Services Committee.
Perfect.
Friday, December the 11th, next Friday, we will not be having a Rotary meeting. However, On Friday, December the 18th, as Donna mentioned earlier, we have a special Christmas holiday party being planned, for which you will be followed by part one of our annual general meeting. So please RSVP to Carol. It's going to be a wonderful event. Donna has worked so hard on this and her committee, and we appreciate all that has been done to make sure we have a great Christmas party during these really unusual times. Before we move on to our transition talks, I want to share a video with you. For the last 90 years, we have been holding a Christmas party for children with special needs, and tomorrow would have been this year's date for the party. Unfortunately, this year due to COVID, this will not be happening. As you know, it is a club favorite. I know as president, people always look forward to being the present when you are at the children's Christmas party and just putting smiles on those faces and giving those families a respite for a day. We're all going to miss that. But I hope you do enjoy the video. And for those of you that are visiting us, to give you a taste of what the Rotary Club of Toronto does on a regular basis for 90 years. Prince?
Today we're here for the 90th Annual Children's Christmas Party at the Royal York Hotel. Today's event, we have 150 children from 5 groups across Toronto. They'll be joined by their family members. We're expecting 450 people in total. And the highlight of the day will be a snowball fight between our guests and the Toronto Police.
There's nothing you can do that's more heartwarming than to come to the Rotary Club of Toronto Christmas party. You see these kids, some disabled, some from families that are struggling, all having a good time, all celebrating together. A really great party, and it's just part of, a small part of what Rotary Club of Toronto does each and every year, and I thank them for that.
It was good, especially the snowball fight, because I love that ever since, because I get to do whatever I get to do. I can't do it anymore.
Tell me more about the snowball fight.
To be here and to see the look in children's face when we're tossing snowballs back and forth or just seeing them with Santa Claus, such a pleasure and so humbling for us to be here and to see the joy of these young children at this event.
It's always an honor for us to get asked to come and help out from the Marine unit. I hope this tradition can continue. I'm going to pass it on and make sure that, you know what, we're here supporting these kids every year at Christmas time, because I find it is a really important thing to do, to give back to them and make their Christmas more enjoyable.
It's a day that he can be a kid, and it's a day that he doesn't have to worry about doctors or his condition. So to see the joy in the kids' faces, it's a joy to moms and dads in general, especially with him, like the snowball fight, like he mentioned, that's something he could never do. So doing a snowball fight against the Toronto Police Services, who doesn't want to throw a snowball every once in a while?
I want to say thank you to Rotary Club, because they are the one who put everything together. And I want to say thank you to CNIB for inviting us every year.
I want to say thank you to all of the people that donated so those events possible, to the Rotary Club for being the 90th year. These events mean so much, so truly thank you, and I hope to attend in the future.
Great experience to be part of Rotary Toronto in this event. The relationship between the Toronto Police and Rotary Toronto has grown over the years, and it has just been such a pleasure for us to be part of this event yet again. So we look forward to next year and every other year after that.
I want to say a special thank you to all our Rotary Club of Toronto members for making today happen and making it the special day that it is.
Happy holidays! Happy holidays! Happy holidays!
Happy holidays from the Rotary Club of Toronto.
All right. Does that bring a tear to your eye? I tell you. It does to mine, but that doesn't take much. And we will do our party again next year, and it will be amazing, just like our seniors party. And now, for our guests only, thank you for attending our meeting today. We'll be asking you to leave the Google Meet meeting now, so we can start our transition talks with our members. For our members, do not exit the Google Meet meeting. After a few minutes, we will start our 10-minute of transition talks. And on that note, I will pass things over to past President Richard White. Over to you, Richard.